Thank you for the introduction and welcome. And good morning again. I have to make one correction. For 20 years I was managing only one company, my company. This is a family business founded in 1869. So this year we celebrated the 146th birthday of our company. And during that time, during the 20 years before, for 30 years I was doing research in computer science, teaching children in Poland and abroad, many foreign universities. And during my management time, I came across TQM, Total Quality Management. After 6 years of a very traditional management, I came across this idea and I got completely amazed with it. And I decided I wanted to manage my company in this way. But of course, there were very few experts in Poland at the time. And therefore, I was traveling mostly to Britain, to annual conferences organized by Advanced Deming Association. I was bringing books from there. And then I was organizing lectures, courses for my employees. And in this way I started to write my book, which appeared last year on Polish market, but it is still available free of charge in a digital version on my site. The address of my site is możnainaczej.pl. The site is in Polish, unfortunately. Anyway, I'm going to tell you today about my experiences. And also some of my conclusions may seem to you strange or maybe even absurd. They were all exercised by myself and by many other people, of course, but including myself in my own family business. Let me start with quoting Friedrich Herzberg, which once said, "If you want people to do a good job for you, give them a good job to do." And I'm going to explain you today what he meant by a good job. Well, leader's dilemma is a question that sometimes some leaders ask themselves: how should I govern the teamwork of my team? Whether using power, which I was given together with my position, or rather organizing a partnership in a team. And I said, some leaders ask themselves this question because very many do not ask. They simply choose power. They choose power because they believe that power is easy and that in that case they are in the situation where that there are no must for them. There are must for the others to whom they may give orders. But this is not true. Leaders of power, they have to do many things. For the first time, they have to see everything by themselves. And therefore, they come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to be before the first shift, and they leave after the second shift because they have watched carefully everybody. How many people can you watch at a time? 3 to 5. So if you have more, you have trouble. If you want to go to holidays, you have trouble. If you want to spend your weekend with a family, you are in trouble. Second, leaders of power have to be suspicious because they are not very popular among the mates of their teams. And therefore they also have to understand that whatever they say may be used against them. But what they have is still not very much compared to what they lose, what they are deprived to. What they lose, in the first place, are the sources of most important information about the work of the team. And the most important information is what goes wrong. What are the barriers in work? This is, by the way, the most effective and the less expensive potential for the improvement of the quality of work, to remove the barriers. And whenever I come to a company with a program of TQM development, I start by asking people, what are the barriers that you encounter in your everyday work? And this is an unbelievable source of information about the company. And removing each barrier is a direction for the improvement of the quality and the productivity of work. But the leaders of power, they do not receive this information. They also cannot count too much for the initiative, a real innovative initiative, innovations in their team, because every innovation is a risk. And if you have a power leader, you will not risk, because if you do not succeed, this is your fault. And if you succeed, this is his achievement, not yours. And who organizes himself, who organizes his work environment in this way, he in general organizes his team and his private, his personal environment in a similar way. And those people, they are not very happy, because they understand that that they have rather enemies around them than friends. So the alternative is to build partnership. And of course, a partnership leader also has to do a lot of things, but different. In the first place, he or she should be open. Open means ready to show as he is. What it means? It means that if I'm afraid, I say I'm afraid. If I made a mistake, I say to my team, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. We have to do something together. If I'm scared, I say I'm scared. Technically, this is very easy. Emotionally, not at all. Second, it must be assertive. Means that it should be prepared and able to defend his position, but only as long as he is convinced. But he should be also ready to be convinced by the others and therefore to change his position. He should know how to listen in an active way. Active listening is the most powerful way to build a partnership, a friendly relation to another person. This is not when we talk. This is when we listen. Because when we listen, we have the best opportunity to express our esteem to the person and an interest to what he's talking about. He should know how to resolve problems in a win-win way rather than in a win-lose way. And this is very important, because whatever is the way of choosing of two or more alternatives, even if this choice was established by a democratic vote, it leaves people in the team who lost. And the people who lost, for at least a few next days, they have only one goal. They have to prove that they were right. But they cannot prove that their solution was better because the other solution was chosen. Still, they can prove that the other solution is wrong. And therefore, they are not terribly looking for a success. They would rather prefer a failure than a success. Even if they won't actively work for a failure, they will probably not be very active in working for the success. And therefore, it is much wiser, whenever it is possible, to resolve such situations in a win-win way. And this is quite frequently possible. One of the algorithms method is the following. If there are two contradicting solutions, and people cannot agree for the solution, then one should try to find another third, yet another solution to complete a list of solutions. And maybe on the longer list, the team will find the solution that they want. If not, then let's try to agree that we do not know which solution is the best. And therefore, we should try to evaluate the possible solutions by experiments. We take first solution by random, we throw a coin, whatever, and then we treat it as an experiment. During this experiment, we put the notes about what happened during the experiments. What are the advantages, what are the disadvantages of that solution? And in this way, there is no loser in the team, and this is very important. Now, people who organize themselves in a green way in their work, they normally organize themselves in the same way in their private life, and they are much happier than the red ones. They are much happier because they know that they have friends and partners around them. They have partners, they will help them if they need help, and the partners who will excuse them if they make an error. That is very important, to feel free to make an error. Now, I frequently, but less frequently nowadays than 17 years ago when I was giving this lecture for the first time, but still I can hear that this is a very idealistic approach. That maybe in better time, maybe for companies who do not need to care too much about their profit, they can afford to be green. And this is not true, because the green, they make more money than the red. And there are many evidences, practical evidences. My company was such one such evidence, but there are many more, of course. And there are also several scientific proofs based on research, and one of them is the very well-known research that was intended, Gallup Institute research that was intended originally to select attributes of companies who are considered a good employer by employees. They have asked 1 million of employees, and that took them 25 years. And after that time, they have selected 12 attributes of a good employer. Of a good employer in the sense that this type of employer is welcomed by employees. And then it turned out that the good employers, they are statistically earning much more money and having much more market success than the bad employers. This made managers interested in what the attributes are. Well, the attributes, they were formulated as questions that we ask to employees. If the answer is yes, this means that the company, the employer, has the attributes. So what are the questions? First question is, do I know what the company expects from me? Normally there is a list of expectations or list of jobs, But frequently there is something behind that nobody talks about, nobody knows very well about, and this makes people that they do not feel safe in their work. Second question, do I have the necessary tools to do my job? Because it may be the case that my job position, the place is badly equipped, and therefore I cannot perform on the level on which I would be able to. And of course this puts people down, makes them rather unhappy. Do I do every day what I do, what I can do the best? Whether my position is properly chosen for me or whether I'm properly chosen for my position. Imagine 80% of people say today no. And so this is of course a devastation of people's potential. Question number 4, is my opinion taken into consideration at work? Does it happen that anybody asks me, what do you think? What would you do? What would you advise? Next, do the managers or anybody in company cares about me? Because very frequently I am just a human resource, and a resource can be changed, replaced by another resource, just the size must be the same. Has anyone appreciated my job during the last 7 days? Has anybody said, well, you did it very well? How nice is your solution? Does anyone encourage me to develop my skills? Because we are encouraging people that we believe they are skillful and able to develop. Do I have a feeling that the work I'm doing is important? If I'm cheating customer, I do not have this feeling. And this does not contribute to my feeling that I'm doing something important and good. Do I have my best friend at work? Are we people that communicate in a friendly way, that support each other? Do my workmates care about working in the best way? This is also not always the case. If this is not the case, then people become very skeptic about the company. Do I have at my work opportunity for an ongoing professional training? Maybe somebody is encouraging me, but the training I have to organize by myself. And finally, have I talked with somebody over the last 6 months about my professional achievements? And this should not be confused with so-called evaluation discussions, evaluation talks. Edward Deming called the evaluation talk a terminal disease of a company. There is a whole book about explaining why we should avoid the evaluation talks. The aim of an evaluation talk is to take a decision whether the guy in question should be fired or not. Maybe he should advance, maybe we have to increase his salary or decrement his salary. Before and after the evaluation talk, both parties of this talk are ill for several months sometimes. I was convinced by my friend, a British expert, a British business trainer, Jim Murray, to avoid this. And I introduced a different formula for the talks. I was meeting once a year with every member of my board for the whole day. And we were meeting, of course, outside of the company, normally in the woods. And during several hours, we simply asked one question to each other. How can I help you in your work? Me, the boss, and you, the team member. And that was it during the whole day. And then we had a protocol, a number of mutual declarations that we were using during the rest of the year. Now, it turns out that companies where people answer yes to the 12 questions, they have a guarantee, a statistical guarantee of success. Now, this may seem a little bit strange because in all these questions, you do not see questions about what are normally believed to be the attributes, the necessary attributes of success. Oops. A good product, an innovative technology, a competent sales force. Does it mean that these attributes are not important? Of course not. They are very important, but they are secondary. They are not primary. If you have people who are well equipped with tools, who do what they like the most, which means what they know the most, if they support each other, if they can develop, if they are convinced that what they are doing is necessary for somebody, then they will do it faster and cheaper than in the other companies, than in the red companies. Now, in that situation, leaders, managers ask the question, what should we do to make our teams to answer yes to all these questions? And this is what my talk is about. But I will start it with an auxiliary question and what they shouldn't do. Because in the first place, before we introduce the positive methods, we have to get rid of whatever is poisoning the company. Edward Deming, the creator of TQM, he knew very well how to answer this question today, but he knew it from his own expertise. Today, social psychology gives a scientific background to it, and I shall try to sketch it very, very briefly to you now. We start from an assumption which seems rather obvious. Whatever we people do, we do to fulfill some of our needs. And therefore the key to understand how to make yourself and your teammates doing what they should do for the company is to understand what types of needs may be fulfilled during the work time. Professor Kosewski, who is a psychologist, and I cooperate with him, he splits the needs into two groups: the needs of profits and the need of dignity. The needs of profits are furthermore split into material profits, ambitions, the needs of material profits, of ambitions, social profits, and the pleasure of acting. Material profits are fulfilled by consumption of whatever you can buy, including your health. Well, you may buy a piece of bread and a Lexus sport car. They are all the material profits. Salary mainly serves fulfilling material profits. Then ambitions. Well, you fulfill this need when you are advanced to another position. For instance, if you win a competition. Social profits are the green profits because they are the profits where the partnership there concentrates. Social profits are very strong, are much stronger than the material profits. Social needs are about how other people feel about you. Friendship, love, they fulfill the social needs. Social needs are extremely strong. In Poland, once upon a time, we have we have a newspaper announcement about the suicide of a child because of the discrimination by his schoolmates in the school. These childs, they were condemned for no fulfillment of the social profit, and they commit suicide. This is an extremely important need. The pleasure of acting is very natural to each of us. Well, this one is also included in our brain. And this is just that some acts we prefer to do than some others, some sports we like, some games we like. And this, if it happens that we like equally much our work, then we won on the lottery of the life. And we are happy during all our life. And of course, this is one of the obligations of a leader to make his teammates feel like that they have pleasure of the very fact of doing this work. And finally, the need of dignity. The need of dignity is again built into our brain, into our neurons, and this is the need of being proud of ourselves. An extremely important need. If people are deprived of fulfilling this need, they do not commit suicide, they die. In prisoners' camp for American soldiers during the American-Korean War, early in the 20th century, 38% of prisoners were dying on the symptom that was called give-upties, those who gave up. They were dying because they were, in a systematic way, they were deprived of their dignity. Every day they had to say to their mates, to their soldier colleagues, what they did wrong during their life. And also what they didn't do good, although they could do it. And 38% were dying. So now we can say a good job is such a job where we can fulfill all these needs. The difference between power leader and partnership leader can be also explained on this picture. Power leader concentrates on the first two needs and he plays with them, using them as a stick and carrot. Partner leader, of course, fulfills this need, but he does not play with the needs. He concentrates on these because they are most important and most powerful. The need of dignity is the only need which may force a human being to risk his life. All the armies are based on this need of dignity. Okay? The honor of the uniform, the honor of the army, the honor of the king. And now we normally fulfill the need of dignity. We have the feeling that we have grounds to be proud of ourselves by understanding, believing that we behave according to a certain standards of behavior. And these standards of behavior are, in this approach, they are called values. So values are fairness, diligence, justice, courage. But in order to work this way, the values must be chosen by ourselves. They cannot be imposed by somebody. They must be chosen by ourselves. It happens that we people, independent of culture, geography, nationality, or religion, we choose the same list of values. Even in mafia. But in mafia, the list of values is applied only to the members of mafia. In general, however, the most people, they apply all these values to the majority of people, but also not to criminals. Now it turns out that sometimes we are not strong enough to obey to the rules that we have chosen by ourselves. And these are so-called situations of temptation. A temptation situation is each situation whenever we have to choose between profit that protects our biology and value that protects our dignity. Several times every day, each of us stands in a situation of temptation, but frequently we do not even realize that because the situation is too obvious. If you see a nice smartphone that you would like to have, somebody's smartphone, and nobody is watching you, you will probably not grasp the smartphone because the price on that side, on the side of values, would be too high. But this is an easy situation. Imagine that you drive a car, and this happens to me sometimes. I drive a car, I'm a little out of time, and not by my fault. I started early enough, but there was a jam on the highway, and now I'm out of time, and 200 people are waiting for me. I'm going to deliver a lecture, so I run rather fast, but then I suddenly enter a speed limit area, a little village, 50 kilometers per hour. Well, I slow down to 80. Everybody is driving 80. And of course, the limit in this particular pace is completely nonsensical. What a village is that? A few houses, a village, a big village. On the top of that, I'm acting for other people. This is not for myself. No, I'm ready to pay man that I'm ready to lose few points from my driving license, not for myself, for them. So what I do at that time is so-called social agreement. Whenever we found ourselves in such a situation, in the situation of temptation, then we enter the dignity dissonance if we choose profits in violating values, because frequently we may choose profits and we do not violate values, okay? But if we violate our values, we are in the state of dignity dissonance, and we can accept that state not longer than 3 to 7 seconds. And then we have to put down the level of this discomfort, of this emotional discomfort, by social agreement, which means we have to find a group of people who agree with us that in this particular case, not in general, we obey to law, and we are ready to die for this law obedience. But in this particular case, we can make an exception, because this is a special case, and we have a group of people who agree with us. So this is what happens, and therefore we should not split people into two groups, the bad and the good. We should understand that everybody is sometimes good and sometimes bad. Now coming back to leadership, there are two sources of motivation, as intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is a situation if I do something because I will get a carrot or avoid a stick. I'm not doing by the very fact of doing, I'm doing because I receive a prize or I avoid a penalty. And the possible situations are professional sports, studying to get a good mark, is prostitution, and is work done by slaves. On the other end of the scale is intrinsic motivation. I do something because it satisfies my need of doing this. I do it because I simply want to do it. Okay? recreational sport, learning the truth, sex, work done by volunteers. Now it turns out that the most effective work is the work of volunteers and the less effective work is the work of slaves. And this has been proved on very many examples. Several of them may be observed in the teams that are developing open source software. Linux has been and is still developed by a team of volunteers. They are not even known. They know to each other, but not to the consumers of the product. They are doing this work because they have the feeling, they are paid with the feeling that they are doing something that is good, that people need, and that they share the same values. So now let me concentrate a little bit on the tools, the stick and the carrot. As a mathematician, if I'm talking about something, I have to define this thing. Mathematicians are being paid for that. And I also need the definition of carrot and stick in order to say later that not every award is a carrot and not every penalty is a stick. So what is a stick? A stick is an unpleasant action which is declared and taken by someone with the aim of changing our behavior. Every word in this definition is important. It is declared in advance. Here is a stick. You see, if you don't behave, I hit you. What are the possible sticks? Blame in front of the others, withholding a bonus, withholding a reward on the teacher's day. This is a very typical stick. Additional work. And a carrot. Well, a carrot is nice, but this is the end of the differences. The rest is the same. It's a pleasant action which are declared and taken by someone with the aim of changing our behavior. And the example of carrot, praise in front of other people, granting bonus, granting a reward on the teacher's day, releasing from additional work. Of course, I have chosen these examples in purpose such that they fit to each other, but the issue is that they always can be chosen in this way. Because depriving somebody of a carrot may be a stick. And in fact, if managers who believe that their team members work because they want to, because they are happy having carrot in the horizon, most frequently they work because they are scared that they won't get the carrot. But of course, symmetrically, avoiding a stick may be a carrot. And these two observations have led me to the following theorem about carrot. The theorem about carrot says that each carrot serves the only purpose of becoming a stick. That is the only purpose of making a carrot, to make a stick out of it. Which means, in other words, that there are no such objects in this world like carrot and stick separately. There's one object, and the object is called a stick carrot, and it looks like that. And now, with this stick carrot, there is associated a certain message, a carrot message. This is a message that you maybe you are not saying this message, but you have it in the back of the brain whenever you negotiate with your future employee his position. You say, I'm prepared to spend on you 3,000 zloty, but I will give you 1,500 as a base and another 1,500 as a possible premium. So the man says, well, if you are ready to spend 3,000 zloty for me, why don't we agree for the 3,000 zloty fixed salary, and then I promise I will do my best. You see, this would be much simpler, and in fact I would prefer that, but I can't do it because you won't work. If you will know that you have this 3,000 guaranteed, you won't work. But why? I'm signing a contract. Well, you know, everybody is signing a contract. But unfortunately, people are lazy and dishonest. We are not, but people are such. What can I do? If you were only lazy, that I could promise you this 3,000 zloty fix every month. You are lazy, but you would force yourself because you are honest, but you are dishonest. So, and this is the only explanation for a premium or interest-based salary. It turns out, and this is proved on many examples and also by scientific experiments, that stick and carrot, they are not productive. Because not productive means no effect. And they have a very strong effect. They are very strongly motivators to receive carrot, but not motivators to do a good job. In this context, they are strongly demotivating to do a good job. I would recommend you a very good book written by American psychologist Alfie Kohn, Punished by Rewards. Why it happens so? It happens so because what we want to change by means of our stick and carrot is the behavior of somebody. The behavior is the consequence of his attitude, but the attitude we can't see. We see the behavior, and we want to change the behavior. Assume that John, 13 years old, is sitting on his home exercise in French language, and he's not very excited about making the exercise. So the mom says, if you get it, if you do your exercise, you will get an ice cream. Well, finally, an interesting proposal from the side of my mom, and he did the exercise and he received the ice cream. His mom says to me, you see, it works. A week later, John sits down to the exercise and looks on mom about the ice cream. Well, formally there was no agreement that the ice cream will come every time, but there's one very important observation. Mom finally showed that he, as well as me, understands that doing this exercise is nothing like a fun. If I go to a cinema, I'm not receiving an ice cream, okay, as an award for that. So there must be a difference between cinema and French. And mom is very happy and says, yes, every time you will make your French lesson at home, you get an ice cream. And mom believes that since John likes ice cream, sooner or later he will like French. And a month later, John comes to mom and says, today I have my French lesson, but I give up. I do not expect the ice cream. That's fantastic, you are doing your French without ice cream. Well, I didn't say that. I said that I give up ice cream because I'm not doing French. Today I have better opportunities, I have better offers, but since we have an agreement, I just want to tell you that you should not go to buy ice cream for me. But of course, mom is still interested for John to make this exercise, and those he says maybe an ice cream and a cinema, maybe. But after a time, an ice cream and a cinema does not pay for making French. So how about a rolling board? A rolling board is a nice proposal, but how long should I make my French for this? Not by the end of my life. Well, not of course, but you know, this is quite an expensive object, so maybe 3 months. 3 months? Forget it. No, thank you. How much will you give? 1 month. Well, they agree for 6 weeks, finally. But after 6 weeks, mom has to think about yet another carrot. Okay, it must be larger. So this is the problem with carrot, that each time you want to receive the same effect, the carrot must be larger. The carrot or the stick, and there is always a limit. And then the mom says, no more awards. What do you think? And John says, finally, I won't have any more problems with French. I won't do it. I won't work on it. What happens with the stick carrot when it provokes an expected behavior, at the same time it changes the attitude in the opposite way. It removes all possible motivations to do the job other than stick and carrot. Stick and carrot takes the positions of all other motivators. And then, therefore, when the stick and carrot is no more available, the system is out of your control. What can we do, therefore, in order to change the attitude? Because that was the aim of mom. To change the attitude, you have to use positive emotions, and you should show or offer awards that are merotic, that are, they are in some natural way associated to the action. The association between French and ice cream is not natural. This is artificial. It's invented by the mom. A natural association is that you learn French and that you can communicate in French. And you, John, may spend your holidays in France because there is an organization that invites people like you, and you go first for the collection of vignobles, and then you make an excursion in France together with your mates, but you have to communicate in French because everybody is speaking French there. So this is the example of an award that is not a carrot. It is an award because it is a natural consequence of the action taken. The use of financial awards, so-called motivating systems, always leads to a situation that I call a war game between the employees and the company. And a big class of the war games is what I call a lever of bonuses. Bonuses are introduced into the company, they are installed like a lever that serves to move heavy objects by one hand. So the one hand is the board or the president of the company, okay, and here is the team, or the boss of the team, and here is the team. 11 minutes, right? And this leads to situations that always happen, and frequently they are even expected in corporations, but nobody is interested to mention them. Only after setting up the lever, it becomes clear who will use it. And it turns out that sooner or later, but rather sooner than later, this side will move the other one. Will use the lever that was installed by the director of the company in order to manipulate the team. And the team will use this tool to manipulate the board. One example, I invited an insurance broker. I wanted to buy 15 insurance policies for life for my employees. And he comes to me and he is a little embarrassed and says, well, what would you say if I sell you only 11, not 15? I say, why? Are you running out of what, policies? And he says, no, but you see, we have a progressive salary. Well, so for 15 you should get more than for 11. Not quite. That was the case, but then we decided, all of us, the team and the board, that this is unfair. Because you see, each of us has a different part of Warsaw, and in some part there are a few big factories, and there you sell many of these products, and some other part is a dormitory, and then you have no chance to sell as much as your colleague. So in order to be fair, we decided that the more you sell, the less interest rate you have. And now if I sell you 15, then I drop into a lower interest rate, and I will lose, counting on the quarter that you are by the end of it, and because this is we are at the second half of December. So I will sell you 11 today and the other 4 in January. And I said, sorry, I can't accept that, because I promised this to my employees for Christmas. So I won't buy anything from you. Well, I'm sorry that I had disappointed you, but for me this is even better. But if you would buy the 11, I would have tried very hardly not to sell anything by the end of the year. And people are sometimes strange. They want to buy and buy and buy and buy, and they want you can't convince them that they wait. I say, like myself. Well, exactly, like you. So that is only one of the ways where people are using the tool that was installed not by themselves, but by the company, in order to manipulate the company. I still believe that people in their nature, they are honest. They must have an excuse in this case, a social excuse, and the excuse is the following. This is not us who invented this game. The game was invented and it was announced to us openly. The game is to make you work in such a way that brings you profit and brings profit at the same time to the company. You don't need to care about anything. The batteries, no. So, and play in such a way in order to win. And this brings us to the second important theorem. A stick which has been installed by the strong is often used against them. Now, if not stick and carrot, then what? Partnership and cooperation. Forming partnership relation and helping people to build their intrinsic motivation. You build for somebody an extrinsic motivation by offering a stick and carrot, but you cannot build for anybody his intrinsic motivation. I understand that I got 2 other minutes.
Let's change it. Okay.
Yeah. Here you are.
On jest wyciszony, więc już biegnę je zmienić.
Can you hear me? Yes. And now it works. So, if not bonuses, then what? Well, there are different answers. They are more or less equivalent to each other. Alfie Kohn says, stop demotivating people by motivation systems. In the first place, Drucker says, manage employees in such a way if they were volunteers, they should feel like volunteers. But this in no way means that you should not pay them. You do not pay volunteers, you should pay your mates, your employees, but they must have the feeling that they are volunteers, which means they are partners. They come, they talk to them, they take their advices, they ask their opinions. And finally, Friedrich Herzberg, what I said at the very beginning, if you want people to do a good job for you, give them a good job to do. What is a good job? Again, this is a job where you can fulfill all the 5 types of needs that I mentioned at the beginning. Another, a simpler explanation, which was actually given by Herzberg, the 3C principle. The work is done in a cooperation environment. There is no competition, there is cooperation. Competition always kills the effectiveness of work. It is not true that if people compete, they try to work the best. Sometimes on the contrary. Look, what is necessary in order to win a competition? Do you have to be very good? Not at all. You only have to be the best, which means that all the others, they have to be worse than you. And some people already came to the solutions that sometimes it is easier to make sure that the others are worse than you rather than making yourself better and better. And therefore, competition always kills cooperation and always is deeply, deeply counterproductive. Second, content, which means that you have a feeling that what you are doing is necessary to somebody, is a good product, is a good service, that the content has a value. And then choice, which means that you are free to choose your way to receive the point that you are supposed to receive. That you have a choice in choosing the strategies, that you may contribute to the way the company is run. And at the very end, just one example of an American company which is the largest American company of tomato processing, 25% of the market, and 2-digit growth year to year, where the market grows by 1% year to year. So this is an enormous growth. Well, this company was described several times in Harvard Business Review, and it is very exceptional because in this company there is only one position, an employee. Everybody is an employee. Everybody receives the same salary, but everybody does a different job. One employee is making ketchup, the other employee is servicing the machine, yet another one is an accountant, yet another one is a strategist, etc., etc. There are no bosses. Who tells whom what to do? A customer, an external customer or an internal customer. He's my boss, and I'm the boss of my suppliers. And it works in this way. This is of course a very extreme case, but this is interesting to see because it shows that in such a case, the company may be so much better than any other competitor in the States and therefore probably in the world. If you are interested in the materials, in Polish, you may get them free of charge from my site. If you are interested in this presentation in English, just write to me. My address is like my first name and family name, Andrzej.Blikle@blikle.pl. Thank you very much for your attention.